This is the Rugby Ascendant Podcast with Envia Velman and Chris Wyatt.
Welcome to the Rugby Ascendant Podcast. I'm Envia Velman. This is our friend Chris Wyatt, straight from Pennsylvania. How's it, Chris?
Pretty good. For yourself, how's it going?
It's going baie good. Thank you very much. I like your Afrikaans. I like your G, like I said before. You called yourself a very nice Afrikaans name, and you and I are both in the same category. Say that again for me, please, what you called yourself.
Well, I think I was talking about you when I called you an Otopi.
Thanks for that, man.
You're very welcome. Yeah, I mean, look, that's one dig. We got one up. I'm up 1-0, and now I'm up 2-0 because of my hoodie today.
Well, I took you on about that hoodie, but you refused to take it off. So I was thinking, should I go ahead or should I leave it? Or should I go fetch my Bulls jersey or what? But anyway, it doesn't matter, you know. If you want to support a losing cause, who am I to stand in your way?
Oh. You slay me, sir. You slay me.
There we go.
I feel it. Anyway, all right, let's get to it.
All right, Chris, you and I started doing a new collaboration where I stream some of your commentaries, your color commentary, live, play-by-play kind of thing, whatever. I can't remember what you call them always, but it's certainly colorful, and I enjoyed. Last week was the first one. Tonight we're going to do the Ireland versus Argentina one, which is now Friday night, the 15th, and then we're going to do France versus New Zealand on Saturday night. Late nights for me. Not so bad for you because you do it in the afternoon because you live in America. And then lastly, we're going to do Wales. You're going to do Wales versus Australia, which we're all going to stream. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to, I enjoy the way you get excited. You get really involved in the games, man.
Well, one thing people definitely cannot say about my broadcast, they can't say it's not colorful. It is definitely colorful, my broadcast. No, it's look, it's live play-by-play and color commentary, which is tough because if you have a television crew, you got two people in the studio or in the booth, and you got one who's doing play-by-play and explaining the game as it goes along. And then you have someone who's giving the color commentary. Well, the Bucks, they've got a record of this, this player, he started out as a tight head prop. Now he's a loose head, or whatever. And so I do both of those things. That's a lot of work. And when you do 3 or 4 games in a day, it's exhausting. So I think a lot of people don't appreciate that, but a lot of my viewers love it. I enjoy it. It's ironic because a number of people who can actually afford the outrageous price that DSTV charges to watch rugby, on SuperSport, a lot of people actually have that. They'll put it on TV, and honest to God, they actually mute the TV and listen to my commentary and try to make sure it syncs. So that's a nice compliment. I really take that as a nice compliment, but I try to bring as much rugby as I can. Of course, for those who don't know, the focus is on South Africa first. South African rugby takes priority. So it's always the Springboks as a test match. And then it will be URC, Currie Cup. I've not done any broadcast of the Varsity Cup, but I've covered Varsity Cup. I've been there in South Africa. And I've received an open invitation. I have a seat open for me anytime I'm in town for a Tux game. They like what I do. And so that's, was it Tux is Nux or Nix or something? Anyway, they've got this nickname. Yes. Yeah, there you go. So Yeah, exactly. So I've got an open invitation. That was very kind. I appreciate that. So no, I'll do that. And then of course I do test matches. I do a little bit of the Six Nations, usually a Scotland or Ireland game, because I kind of pull for the Celtic nations when I'm not looking at South Africa. And then I try to do USA, but not always. Like this past weekend, USA played Portugal and they won in Portugal. Wow, huge. We moved up the rankings. That was a really big win. Well played game and it was an earned game. It was 3 converted tries. Not like they just got there in penalty conversions. So I tried to do the Eagles, but if it conflicts with the Springboks, sorry, Springboks come first.
The one thing that I noticed, which is quite funny, is the way you guys spell color over there and the way we spell color over here. It's not the same.
No, because we spell it correctly.
You spelled it after we spelled it the first time. I mean the UK. It came from you guys just adapted
actually, that is incorrect. My ancestors were on both sides of the pond, and some of my ancestors, including my 34th great grandfather, William the Bastard, later known as William the Conqueror, invaded, and they Normanized English. They changed it. So color comes from French, and they spell it that way in French. The English were too stubborn to change it when it was imposed upon them by the Normans, and you're stuck with the incorrect spelling of color. We simplified it in American English, and it just makes much more sense our way. It's kind of like, other things like, everyone else in the world calls them traffic signals, but South Africans call them robots. R2D2 and C3PO are robots, not that light at the end of the street.
Certainly colorful in South Africa. Our language is
exactly. No. Look, the South Africans are wonderful. South African English is especially wonderful, and in Afrikaans, and especially Afrikaans and Kaps in the Western Cape. The humor of folks down there But definitely, people talk about English accents and they say, what are the best ones in the world? To me, the best accent, the most, pleasing to my ear is Irish English, when the Irish speak English. And then close second for me is Afrikaner speaking English. I always get a kick out of it. It's a really nice accent. I enjoy it. But then, I put Americans and New Zealanders at the bottom of that because our accents are the worst to my ear.
No,
Anyway.
Australians. That hurts my ear. And I'm that Afrikaner English that you're talking about. I roll my R's very deliciously. Yeah, quite
Exactly.
often. There we go.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk about the games. I thought let's talk about Ireland versus Argentina first. Then we'll look at France and New Zealand, and then lastly we'll look at the Springboks versus England. That I think the biggest game of the entire Autumn Nation series of November. So let's start Ireland versus Argentina. What are you expecting in that game? A lot of people's backs are up. Argentina thinks they might claim another scalp. They've had a stellar 2024. Ireland a little bit, back against the wall. What are you expecting?
Well, this is a tough one because I usually root for Ireland, and I'm not a huge Pumas fan, but I really respect their season, and I always pull for them in the World Cup as long as it's not against South Africa. I've been really impressed by the Pumas this season, especially since they don't have a franchise in URC and they're not in Super Rugby anymore. So that's tough, to keep that level of play. Of course, a number of their top flight players play in the Premier League or in France, or they play URC, but it's still not the same because they're not playing together, in cohorts. Like we have a lot of South Africans playing on the South African sides, and the same with the Irish teams. Like look at Leinster. It's the starting Irish 15, But the point is, so their accomplishments this season are even more impressive in my view because of that. So I'll be wearing an Ireland jersey, but I'll be secretly rooting for Argentina to win this game. It's going to be weird because I don't have a Pumas jersey, but I mean, but anyway, so it's weird. I'll be wearing the Ireland jersey, rooting for Argentina. This, much like the South Africa game last week in Scotland, in my view, is a trap game for Ireland. This is a game they could lose. They better not come in with the same attitude they had against the All Blacks. And we're the number one team in the world. We're at home. We're going to win this game. You can't do that. Argentina's hungry, and they are taking scalps. They have beaten New Zealand. They've beaten South Africa. They've beaten Australia. They're claiming scalps everywhere. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them slip into, and this isn't at Aviva Stadium either. They're playing, where are they playing at? It's at, it says Aviva here, but it's actually not at Aviva. Let me see. I've got it here somewhere. Hang on a second. Lansdowne, I think is where they're playing or something like that. Is that right? Yeah, Lansdowne. No, oh, no, maybe that's Aviva Stadium. Okay, it says Lansdowne. I thought maybe they're at Aviva Stadium. But whatever the case is, I expect Argentina to come in here and play very well, very well. So, I mean, ever since they beat the Springboks, they're looking better and better and better. They just crushed. I mean, they didn't beat Italy; they crushed Italy. And Italy's actually been improving as a side. I mean, they've had some good coaching; they've improved. But this is a huge setback for Italy. And so Argentina looks good right now. I've in my Super Brew. I'll be honest. I picked Argentina to win by 5.
Yeah, but you did it on for sentimental reason more than anything else. I mean, Argentina had a good season. They also beat France, remember? Beat Team France when France traveled down there. So France and Italy. So, yeah. But I mean, it's Ireland at home. It's second week game in a row. And the Pumas, we know, are famous for one week beating the All Blacks and next week getting a record beating. Same with everybody else. Same as Springboks. They beat Springboks in Argentina. Next weekend, we just whip them. So they can never string 2 games in a row together. And I think this is now the second game. They beat Italy last week. So I think Ireland's going to show them a thing or two. But I think certainly under Felipe Contepomi, they've improved a lot. And of course, Felipe Contepomi has got a Leinster background. He's been with Leinster for ages. Joined the Pumas only last year before the World Cup. So you know how to approach Ireland, I suppose.
And there's one other thing that works in their favor, too. If this had been reversed and the game had been, the first game was in Dublin, I think they'd be at a big disadvantage because of the travel. But they're in Europe. They've already been there. They're in Italy. It's just 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So I mean, the travel isn't really a major consideration here. So that's not going to be something that's going to affect them. They should be rested. They should be prepared. And as you said, I think the coaching may give them an edge here. Look, I mean, it may be, maybe I'm just, it's heart over head on this one, and I'll accept that if I get it wrong. But I think Argentina can win this one. It's a trap game. It's Ireland needs to show up. They didn't show up last week.
No, they didn't. You're right. And I think they were a bit overconfident. Remember, last week they were still number 1. This week they're number 3, and Argentina is number 5. Not that far apart.
Well, but of course they were number 1, courtesy of the Pumas, who beat South Africa by a point.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. This is payback time. They're going to let them show them up now. One thing that was interesting for me is they dropped Bundy Aki. What did you think of his performance last week?
I thought he was fine last week. I mean, he's had some better performances, but he certainly wasn't the reason that they didn't do well. But I'm shocked that he's not starting. I mean, that's that guy's the heart and soul of that team. I wasn't a fan of Bundiaki early on. I mean, first off, he's not Irish. I mean, why is he playing? But then, I mean, if that's the case, I can't root for Ireland or for Scotland or for, they all use South African players. So, but,
Or
but
New
no, but
Zealand players?
or New Zealand players. Yeah, James Lowe. Yeah, no. So I came around to him because he's just such a quality player. Yeah, and so yeah, so that's yeah, I'm just surprised that they dropped him out of the lineup. That's a little bit surprising, but we'll see. Maybe it's the right call. Maybe they see something we don't see.
You mentioned James Lowe there, one of the other New Zealand retreads. That's not the right word. Maybe
Well, that's just mean. He's a top flight
recruits.
player.
Yeah. I mean, that
He
guy's
just
got
needs.
a boot on him. He's got everything. He's got the
He
hair
just needs.
like
He
Samson.
just needs a haircut, but he'd probably ruin his game.
Remember, you and I laughed at him that semi-final at Leinster when Leinster played the Bulls at Loftus about his hair. I didn't recognize him with his hair down. Remember?
Oh, because he had his hair down. I think it was the first
Yeah,
time you saw it. I mean, yeah, it's like Samson. I bet if they cut his hair, he'd be an average rugby player.
they wouldn't recognize him anyway. Look completely different. You're right. Yeah.
Well, it
Yeah.
might be a good tactic, because people be looking on the pitch, they wouldn't recognize him. They just streak down the side and burn them. Oh, it's James Lowe.
Yeah. Well, the other New Zealander is, I think, the key player, the absolute key player in that team is Jamison Gibson Park. He stepped up since Johnny Sexton's left. He's really become almost indispensable, also ex-New Zealander. And I think without him being there, Ireland would be in a bit of trouble. But I think with him there, they're going to swing it, my feeling.
No, I agree 100% that Jameson Gibson Park is a huge cog and a key element of that team. The guy's a really fine scrum half. I don't know if he's a top one. I wouldn't put him in the top 3 in the world, but he's definitely a very good scrum half. And you could see a clear difference when he's on the pitch versus who's the guy off the bench they got Craig Casey, I think, is coming off the bench. There's a huge drop off there. Nothing against Craig Casey, but Gibson Park is just that much better.
Yeah, next level. Interesting thing, Ireland lost 3 games this year. It was England, South Africa, and the All Blacks, of course, last week. And all 3 of those games, they lacked in possession. They didn't get enough possession. So I suppose that Argentina back row, the Matera, Poveda, Gonzalez, combination, they're going to play a crucial role to make sure they starve Ireland of ball and then keep the possession away from them. Then they're in for a thing. They might pull it off.
No, I think that's a good assessment. I'm looking forward to this game, and we're about just under 6 hours away from the start of this game. It's really be convenient for Ireland to schedule the games on Fridays. I like that because, I mean, my Saturday is already brutal, but this also gives me a chance to do rugby on Friday, which I kind of like. I'm getting in the habit of that. URC kind of got me in the habit at first place because they have games on Friday, and I cover some of those games. But yeah, no, I think your assessment's spot on. I was looking at the lineup here, and the one thing I didn't see in the lineup is I didn't see Chaco Barras. Where the heck is Chaco Barras at? He's not injured, is he? I mean, it's my favorite. It's my favorite surname in rugby.
Yeah, it's actually quite a cool surname. You're right. Listen, give me a prediction. What's your prediction?
Argentina 28, Ireland 24.
Oh, close. Yeah, I'll go with that score, but I'll have it the other way around. Ireland to win, but
Okay.
barely. Close game.
Okay.
Interesting. You're going to have a chat next week and see who was right and who was wrong. But the other game we're going to be covering on Saturday night, quite late. Like I said, I'm going to have to take afternoon naps to make sure I make it till the end of that. France versus New Zealand.
You utopia.
Yeah. I mean, the grey gives it away for both of us, I'm sure.
Hey, I resemble that comment. Be careful.
Well, you've got plenty of grey. You've got more than I do, so there we go. Anyway.
That's why they call us the greybeards.
There we go. And that's because we perceived to be wise. Might be
exactly. That was my point.
Yeah.
All right. So which one are we talking about here now?
France versus New Zealand. I'm excited. I mean, there's a lot of needle in that game. I mean, last year World Cup opening game, France beat New Zealand. New Zealand ended up in the final. France fell short, against South Africa in the quarterfinal. I'm expecting fireworks from this game.
Yeah, no, one of the most exciting games I ever called doing what I do just a couple of years ago was when New Zealand went to Paris and France beat them when France was on the ascendancy. And of course, then France was expected to be the team that won the World Cup. and they didn't, of course. But that game was unbelievable. When these guys play each other in Paris, it's usually a good game. I'm expecting a really good game. I want to see how Dupont does, and I want to see Artie Sevilla's game in this. He's been talking a little bit, and I want to see if he steps up. So it should be exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. And as you said, for South Africans, that's a late night game. So it should be interesting, and then that'll come after the sugar high of South Africa just trashing England, and we'll get to that shortly. But so so I won't need any frappuccinos to get a sugar high when that game is over. But yeah, but no, it's going to be, I think, an epic. I think it'll be the best game of the weekend. It has the potential to be the best game of the weekend.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be the most even game. I think England, South Africa might be a bit lopsided in South Africa's favor. I think so. But I think England, France, and New Zealand is going to be very close because they both have their top sides, most of their top players, not many injuries. You mentioned Sevilla just now. Interesting. Sevilla and Satiti are swapped around. Sevilla going to 6 and Satiti going to 8, which is their actual positions. Interesting call, that.
It is. Well, Satiti's been in a fascinating find for the All Blacks. The guy's real. He's the real deal. It's exciting to see. The other one is the guy on the wing. What's his name? Oh my goodness, the Sia with the guy we discovered from rugby league that came up. I hate the All Blacks with a passion that I reserve only for certain things. But I mean, I respect them. And they're not at the top of their game right now, and neither is France. But I'll tell you what, I'm definitely be rooting for France in this game. I want another loss in the All Blacks column for the season. I'll be rooting hard for France. So. And if I have to, j'ai changé avec le langue de français pour le jeu contre Nouvelle-Zélande. C'est très intéressant, mais on peut dire que c'est les Français veulent gagner.
Well, ek gaan Afrikaans met jou praat, Chris, want jy gooi die French very delicious. I don't know what you said just now, so I'm going to say Afrikaans. Ek dink jy opblaak gaan die Franse se gat skop. There we go.
Okay, well, so I got France, you got New Zealand. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I do. Now,
ek praat nie Afrikaans nie, maar ek verstaan.
You verstaan. Okay, no, I must be careful. I didn't understand a word you said. I know you spoke French, but I had no idea what you said. I suppose it meant that France is going to beat New Zealand. So,
along those lines, but I did get your Afrikaans, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Spot on. I must be very careful what I say when I mumble under my breath or something like that. I must be careful. Interesting. The biggest thing for me is, next year, France announced they're not going to send a proper team down to New Zealand next year. They're going to focus on the top 14. In France, always a case of club ahead of country, which I don't think is the right thing. So next year, that's not going to be a full-blown France side going to New Zealand. But this game is the proper French side against a proper New Zealand side. Dupont's going to be playing. First choice player is going to be playing. It's going to be one of those games. And Dupont versus Roygaard, I think that's going to be something to look forward to.
Yeah, Roygaard kind of slipped under the radar for me, but I'm noticing him now, so I'm looking forward to that. But I mean, next year, that no one's going to pay attention to that. Next year, it's the British and Irish Lions down under. That's what we're going to be paying attention to, and 5 or 6 of us will be watching Women's World Cup in England.
Yeah, but 2 or 3, you mean?
Okay.
Shame, man. That's not good. Anyway, now we're saying I predict the All Blacks to win by about 5. I think so. Because I tell you why. Scott Robinson is now sort of settled down. The New Zealanders are finding their rhythm. The set pieces are looking good. They won 5 in a row now. They're 2 against Australia. They beat Japan. They beat England. They beat Ireland. Yeah, they're going to be in a high. It's going to be a tough job to take them down. France played 1 game last week against Japan, so they might be a little bit more rusty. New Zealand's now the 4th game, I think, in a row that they're going to be playing.
Well, France might be a little bit tired. I mean, they scored 52 points. I mean, they did a lot of running in that game.
Yeah, all right.
Poor Brave Blossoms. They've really, I mean, their apex was the World Cup in Japan. They went undefeated in their pool, beat Scotland, beat Ireland. And, with the retirement of their key players, and, they struggle now. It's a shame because the rise of them under Eddie Jones was epic, and what they achieved was just incredible. And I hate to see them they're kind of a middling team now. It's they're getting their wins against the Pacific nations and the North American teams, not against, European sides like they were doing before. So I hope that Japan finds their way back.
Do you think they made the right choice by bringing Eddie Jones back?
Yeah, I think Eddie Jones is a great coach, and a lot of people love to hate Eddie Jones, which is interesting. The only reason I didn't like Eddie Jones is because he signed a contract with the Stormers, and then he abandoned us, And I was at the game I think it was in it wasn't Exeter, it was at Gloucester. It might have been Gloucester, the last game of the 2015 World Cup that I attended, which was Japan versus USA. I was sitting right on the end of the row, just below the booth where the coaches sit on the 50-meter line. And he was down on the pitch, the warm-ups. He came up and I saw him. I said, "Hey, Eddie, thanks a lot for signing with the Stormers in Western Province, man. Really appreciate it. Thanks for going to South African rugby." And he said he kind of gave me a thumbs up and, reached out and shake my hand and went up the booth. And he'd already agreed to join England like that day. And I didn't know that. So I was like, "You bastard."
Yeah, but remember, he did the
Yeah.
same thing last year. He had a Zoom interview in the World Cup with Japan
Yeah.
while he was still coaching
Yeah.
Australia. I mean, he denied it, but we all know that's what happened. No? And England, the
Exactly.
England players have now been coming out of the woodwork saying how bad a coach he was for England. Not bad in sense of technical sense, but a bad man manager.
Yeah, well, that may be true, but he also has the record for longest winning streak in rugby union, tied with New Zealand. He took over and took the team that Stuart Lancaster had, almost the exact same team, virtually no personnel changes, and took a team that was atrocious in the World Cup and went on an 18-game winning streak. So people say what they want about Eddie Jones, but he's had success everywhere. He may not be a person that's easy to get along with, and I think that's what the players are moaning about. But you don't have to like your coach or love your coach. I mean, we've had, I looked at American football. We've had some really nasty, mean coaches, but success is success. I mean, I prefer to have a guy that you like and you look forward to going to work every day. But, you can't argue with success. Eddie Jones, his legacy will be tarnished, I think, because of that, with being in Australia. I think that was a huge mistake by Australian rugby to bring him in. I think it's a huge mistake, but even bigger mistake by Eddie Jones to agree to come in to try to take this team to the World Cup. And he took a lot of the blame. But I mean, we all know that Australian rugby was dead. It was on its knees. And there's no chance they were going to do well in the World Cup. And, it's just, it's not, I don't blame Eddie Jones for that. I blame Australian rugby for it. Now they're coming back. They're not back, but the game against England, that was very encouraging for them. So maybe in a couple more years, Australian rugby will be back where it once was, but it'll never be as good as the Springboks. So I really don't care. Well, Wallabies.
Yeah, well, at least it makes the Lions tour next year. You mentioned it before. It's going to make it more interesting. It's going to be a bit more of a contest. And we'll see against Wales on Sunday, whether that was a flash in the pan or whether there's actual resurgence in Australian rugby.
Oh, no. A team that's deader than Australia was 2 years ago is Wales today.
Yep.
Warren Gatlin is going to be shown the door very soon.
No, I agree with you. 10 losses in a row. No, man, that's not acceptable. I'm sure. Yeah. Well, you talked about coaches being loved by their players and everything. And one of those shining examples is Rassie. And another coach that's under extreme pressure is Steve Borthwick. So let's move on to the England game.
Sure.
What did you think of that Springbok selection?
Well, it's all right. They're giving Manie another shot.
Oh, he's a stormer. You should be happy.
Yeah, well, we got it from the Sharks. So anyway.
And they got them from the Bulls.
So we got yesterday's laundry. Anyway, no, look, when Manie's on, Manie's incredible, and when he can't kick, he certainly has great ball placement. His tackling is satisfactory. So, I mean, that's okay. I'm very happy about the scrum halves, Grant Williams and Kobus Reinach. I'll take that any day and any start against any team. Both are similar. They have incredible speed, great distribution of the ball. Their box kicks are pretty darn good. When Grant Williams came in the game against Scotland at the World Cup in Marseille that I attended, and I was at the just behind the try line, I had a really good seat there. That game we were struggling, and then Grant Williams came on and and things just changed instantaneously, in my view. I'm a huge Grant Williams fan. Unlike his teammate Jaden Hendrikse, I'm not a big fan of him. But Kobus Reinach, I'm a huge fan. I was at Japan in 2019 in Kobe. Was it Kobe? Where he scored a hat trick against Canada. And once again, sometimes you just get lucky, MV. Sometimes you're just lucky. You go to a game like this is a terrible seat, and it turns out the entire game is right in front of you. The Canada game, I think they scored like 7 tries, something like that. I think like 5 of them were scored right in front of me. In my end of the try zone is all across the field, but they were right in front of me. It was incredible. And Kobus Reinach had a hat trick in that game. I've been a huge fan of his ever since. I liked him before that. Fossey's back. Fossey, look, I mean, this is a game where we can take some risk here with players. I know a lot of people are high on Fossey. When Fossey is on, he's great, but he's great at getting down the field. The rest of his game needs a lot of work. So I see Villy's not even on the roster on this one. So Cheslin Kolbe's back. That makes me very happy. I'm a huge Cheslin Kolbe. This guy he's like Mighty Mouse, man. He's the man of steel. I mean, guys twice his size, he'll run into them. They fall over backwards. I love it. And he tackles from everywhere. Evans back out there. Sia's got the captaincy again. Peter Steph Dutoy. That's what I said. 6, 7, 8. That's brilliant. Khaleesi, Dutoy, and Jasper Wiese. That's going to be great. I think that'll solidify some stuff, and we'll be in good shape. The bench isn't as strong this week as it was last week on paper, but in performance last week, the bench was not very good until the 65th minute. So, you take it for what it is. But I'm okay with this lineup. Arge Snyman's out there, and I think our locks are in good shape. And I know you're going to want to talk about this. Wilco Low makes an appearance.
I was waiting for you to mention his name. Yeah.
Okay. I know. That's why I looked at my score sheet here. Wilco Low, that's getting a lot of attention. A lot of people commenting. He's been away for a while, but he deserves this. What's going to happen? I think he's going to be fantastic.
No, there's no doubt about it. He played exceptionally well for the Bulls. Him and his opposite number, Gerard Sterenkamp, his loose head prop at the Bulls. I think he was overdue. The fact that Frans Malherbe was injured sort of opened the door for him. He didn't just open the door; he just broke it down. I'm interested to see what Don Heeman saw in him to select him for a starting berth in an important test like this. Because remember, he wasn't in the initial squad. He was only selected because Damien Willems got injured, who was a back, and then Wilco and Johan Grobler was called up, two of them. So he wasn't even going on tour, and now he's starting against England. To me, that's an interesting development.
Yeah, I agree, and that's probably one of the reasons why it's getting a lot of attention. I mean, it's that, and Jake White making some comments about England's team are the talk of the weekend right now. So now that's what everybody's built up to. Here we are on Friday. Now people just have to perform on Saturday, but tongues are wagging about Jake White's comments, and tongues are wagging about Wilco Low. I think it's going to be fine. I think that front row is going to be very good. So, and then, the replacements off the bench. I mean, come on, Malcolm Marks, Steenkamp, Vincent Koch. Those are two starting front rows for any team in the world.
Well, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned Jake White, and what did Jake White say? Jake White said England lack toughness and they can't scrum.
Unfortunately for Steve Borthwick, Jake White is 100% correct.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
There's one guy I don't want to be in England right now. I don't want to be Will Stewart, and I also don't want to be Ellis Genge, because Will Stewart's going to tackle Oxenchair, and Ellis Genge is going to have to face Wilco Low. I wouldn't close an eye. I wouldn't sleep a wink. I tell you what, I would be up all night.
I expect scrum dominance from the outset in this game from the Bucks. Not anything less, and I'll be very colorful in my commentary.
Yeah, as you usually are. Now, I think the England are going to try and avoid scrums as much as they possibly can. They're going to kick the living daylights out of the ball. They've got those tall backs now. They've brought Stewart back. They've got Van Poortvliet back at scrum half, because he's also a good kicker. We're going to see balls, leather being kicked off the ball by England, avoiding scrums as much as they can. Tall wingers. We've got short wingers. You mentioned Cheslin. You mentioned Kirkley. So that's going to be an interesting situation. But that access rule on the new rule about providing access on the kicks, that's going to be Fussie's going to feast on that, I think.
Well, I think, look, and I don't blame England for kicking the ball a lot. What you're hoping to do is gain territory, but you're also hoping for a mistake. A distracted player gets a knock on, and you get the ball down there, something like that. And I think their chance there is not going to be with Kirtley or with Cheslin, who are brilliant on the high ball, but with Fossey. If you're going to kick it, maybe kick it towards the fullback. Look for space back there and make Fossey chase the ball if you're going to kick it. And I agree with you. I think England's going to be booting the ball all day long. So.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to say that I noticed that stood out for me, the fact that this pack is incredible. It's like heavy artillery, real, your tank brigade, if you want to call it that. But the backs are fast and they're fleet-footed. You and I talked about it yesterday when the team came out initially. If you look at that back three, like you mentioned, Fussey, Kolbe, and Arendse, and then Manie and Williams. The one word that comes to mind is speed. Interesting. I wonder how they're going to do that with Tony Ball. They're a different team than what they were last year when they played against England in the semi-final. Far more attacking prowess under Tony, but a little bit more fragile, I would think, in terms of defense. What do you think?
Well, I mean, in the center there, you've got the dynamic duo. You've got Jesse Creel, and you've got Damien de Allende, and those guys, I think, will solidify things. No, I think we're going to be okay. I think we're okay. But I think the Tony Brown, the Tony Ball, I mean, the speed is going to be devastating for England. England can't make any tackling mistakes in this game, because Kirtley and Cheslin will burn them. They will torch them. And so, yeah, it's. I think we're going to be. The more I look at the lineup, the happier I am about it. This is a game. Look, I mean, if Rassie wants to give Manie a chance again, this is the game to do it, in my view, against England, because England's struggling. And he's got Pollard on the bench. He can bring him off. Bring him on. So that's. Yeah, that's there. So anyway, I'm pretty happy with this lineup. And
Manie,
look, I'm a huge fan of Jesse Creel and Damon Delende
yeah,
working together. They are fantastic together.
I think they're probably the best in the world if you ask me right now.
I agree. As those guys at center, those two are the best in the world as a combination. I agree.
I wanted to ask you about Manie, just briefly going back to him. Remember that last kick he missed against Argentina cost us the game, but he didn't lose us the game. We lost the game. We didn't play well enough. I mean, we had a 17-0
Correct.
lead. The fact that he missed the kick just could have pulled the test off for us, would have been an undeserved win, if I call it that. The point is, Rassie gave him a chance against Argentina in Nelspruit, but Manie didn't kick at post. He got Jaden Hendrikse to kick
Correct.
at post. Now there's no Jaden Hendrikse. I wonder if they're going to get Cheslin to do the kicking for Manie, or whether they're going to give Manie a chance or two and see what happens. I mean, if he misses again, this is going to be a tight game. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be cold. It's going to be slippery. You want to get those 3, 6, 9 points. Make sure you get ahead on the scoreboard. You don't want to miss those kicks, because we know if Manie misses one, he misses all of them. If he makes the first one, he gets all of them. Such a key confidence player, that.
Yeah, it is, and I think the shot clock has had an impact on his kicking ability.
True.
Now that they have a shot, they push that clock, and so he's always a guy that takes like 17 minutes to line the ball up and stare at it and decide when he's going to kick it. Yeah, exactly. But the problem here is the only person in that starting lineup that even can kick at all, in my view, is Kolbe, as you mentioned, and he's okay. He's a utility guy if you need him, but he's not your regular guy to kick at the post. But Cheslin Kolbe's Owen is back up there. And off the bench, all you got's Pollard. There's no one else. So
interesting. Harry mentioned to me, sorry to interrupt you, but Damon kicks for his team in Japan, and he's actually the first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Damon Delende. That's right. Yeah, he does kick. Yeah.
That'd be surprising. I think I've never seen him kick.
Yeah, I've never seen him kick for Springboks either. I mean, we don't have Damon Willemse. He would be fine, but he'd be manageable. But no, it's a bit of a risk, but I think it's not going to be a close game. It shouldn't be a close game. So it won't matter whether Manie hits the post or not. What'll matter is if he can't hit the post and we win big, then he's just worked himself out of a role.
And remember, John Eales used to kick for Australia. He was a lock. Maybe Argeo Eben can kick for post. You never know.
Well, hey, Peter Steph Dutoy, he is the world's most versatile rugby player.
Yeah. I joked the other day, I read an article that said Rassie's one of these days going to bring over 2 bench, 2 forwards and 6 backs, because Cheslin can play hooker. That's going to.
Well, we've seen him play hooker. He did the lineouts.
Yeah,
that was. I was like covering the game, like, what's Cheslin Kolbe doing throwing the ball in?
That's exactly that. And I saw the other day, I saw a clip, Bongi and Malcolm Marx and Jasper Wiese were practicing throw-ins into the line-out.
Yeah, Rassie. He's a consummate disruptor, man. That's I love it. I love it.
All right, give me your prediction.
South Africa 50, England nothing. No, just kidding. South Africa 36, England 18.
Yeah, 30-10, roughly around there. 30-12. South Africa around about 30. New Zealand, England 12. No, not more than 12, I don't think. So
well, I was counting on a good game from Marcus Smith and getting all their points from him.
Yeah, he's the one guy that we need to watch. He's honestly the one guy that can make or break a game. The one thing about England is all these games they've lost now in a row, they've lost in the last minutes. All of them.
Yeah.
All 3 games against the New Zealanders, the game against Australia, last year against the Boks in the semi-final of the World Cup. I mean, they led 15-6 with 8 minutes to go, and they lost the game. So,
but to be fair, they deserve to lose every one of those games. It's not like they got unlucky. Yeah. No, it's not like they got unlucky and they had a call go against them, or just something bad happened, or a player got injured, or they had an unfair yellow card. No, they lost these games because they
didn't close it out.
They don't have the heart to finish the game. That's it's something that they lack toughness. Yeah, it's something I complained about with my Stormers for a long time. In URC action, they lose games because they just go to sleep, and let teams come back. That first season, the URC, I was pulling my hair out. I mean, they come out of the gate, they're winning like 28-0, and they lose the game 42-28. How did that happen? Something, but that happened over and over again that first season. And of course, they won that first season, but I mean, early in the season, I'm like, what is going on here? That seems to be a trend with some teams. They let teams back in it.
As well, yeah.
What? Yeah, well, that's because they have a leaky defense, man. It's like,
No,
they're like they're like the Bulls. The Bulls are like the water pipes in Cape Town, man. The 40% of the power's lost. The water is leaking out of the pipes.
You can't play a Bulls team with 14 players because another guy, second 2 in a row, got a red card that wasn't deserved and was overturned that same week. I mean, come on.
What's the word for excuses in Afrikaans?
Yeah, alibi.
Alibi.
Verskonings, man. That's not verskonings. It's truth. It's the truth. We were done in, and we still managed to win. Most of them, that one game we lost against the Scarlets, I mean, that was a disaster. But not. It's because of the record. I mean, honestly.
Well, I just have one phrase for the Bulls. I mean, it's just something you have to do on your own. Self-bestow. That's, you need to take care of yourself.
Okay. Wait for the USC. Let's see who ends up in the final and actually takes it this year.
Hey, we might not be in the playoffs at this stage.
You're not going to make the playoffs. You're freaking lost, if I'm not mistaken. I'm telling you.
Hey, it's okay. I have the Bulls hoodie. I can change sides pretty quickly.
Chameleon. There we go. Color commentary. Now we know what you mean by that. You change colors like that. Right,
well, I do change jerseys for every game. I have an Irish jersey on today.
I'm always excited to see what you're wearing. Yeah.
Well, tomorrow I'm doing the Scotland-Portugal game, and I'll be wearing the Portugal jersey because I have the World Cup jersey. It's one of my favorites. It's an incredible jersey. Scotland's going to destroy them, but I'll be wearing that one, and of course the Springboks jersey. And then for the France-New Zealand game, I don't have a France jersey, and I'll never have an All Blacks jersey. It's a boring jersey to look at. I mean, come on, put a little color in that thing. A little design, but
it's called the All Blacks. I mean, that's the reason.
Well,
the reason why it looks like that.
You can have patterns with like slashes of white around the shoulders. I mean, they can do something.
Big collars, looks like a priest or something.
Well, yeah, they do. They look like they're coming from a monastery. But no, no. I'll probably be wearing the rugby officials jersey because I have the World Cup rugby jersey officials from a couple of the World Cups. So that's probably what I'll wear for that game. Yeah, and then on Sunday, I have a Wales jersey, and I have a really awesome Wallabies jersey, which has the indigenous patterns on it.
Those are nice ones. Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, so I might wear that, or maybe I'll switch. I'll wear them both. But anyway, I do that sometimes. So anyway,
I support Australia. I must say that. I hope Australia wins. By the way.
Well, I'm not a fan of Australia, but I hate to see a rugby nation fall so far. They really fell off the table. And look, I really feel bad about Wales too. I mean, I'm not heartbroken, but I really feel bad for the Welsh because I mean they've had a quality side. They've had teams that could have gone to the finals in 2 or 3 World Cups in recent years, but now they're just a disaster, an absolute disaster. They have no clue, they have no semblance of order, and they're just getting thrashed. I mean, I expected Fiji to beat them, and I picked them in Super for Fiji to win, and and I'm expecting Australia to thrash them as well.
Yeah, I think so. No, I mean, they need a new coach. There's no doubt about it. No two ways. Need a new coach. He can have as many excuses as he wants to and, be noble and it's not my fault, need depth, whatever. Point is, they need a new coach. I would like to see someone like Felix Jones, for example, step up to take that job, but he won't. He's probably going to go to Munster. But that's the kind of coach that you need. Somebody, some new generation, clever thinker, not the old stuff over and over and over again. Doesn't work.
Well, it's not working, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's sure. All right, Chris, thanks, man. I'll see you later tonight when we do the Ireland versus Argentina game, and then I'll meet up with you quite regularly over the weekend. Thanks for helping me to let me do that. Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, cheers. Thanks a lot, folks. We really appreciate your patronage and your viewership. Your time is valuable, your data is valuable, and the fact that you share it with us, we are both very grateful for it. So, bye, donkey. There
we go. The Outopia is going to sign off now. Thanks, Chris.
Speak for yourself.
No, you started it. You mentioned those words for the first time. Anyway, thanks, man. Appreciate your time. We'll talk soon.
Cheers.
This is the Rugby Ascendant podcast with Envia Velman and Chris Wyatt.